Credit cards are the silent killers that gut most people's financial lives. To keep yourself safe, you need to understand what credit is, what your credit score is, how to use it, how to build it, and a few financial habits that are going to keep your credit history clean and prevent you from going beyond your means. Now, I'm going to show you how all of that works in today's video right after you press the like button, just to show the algorithm that you like this video and to let me know that this is valuable and I can make more of these videos for the channel. The principle of credit simply states that you need money, somebody else is going to lend it to you, and you're just going to pay it back over time, plus an agreed rate of interest. Interest is just additional money that you pay the lender to compensate them for the risk that you're not going to pay back anything at all. Interest is a really big and really complicated topic. Luckily, we have a full article about it over on the Young Daily Finance Magazine's Substack page. I'll leave a link to that in the description below so you can go check it out. Today our focus is credit cards, but a lot of what we're saying also applies to things like loans and lines of credit. Those are going to be covered in a separate video. We all know the interest rates on credit cards are famously high, often somewhere between 19 and 30% compounded every single month. What interest rate you're charged on your credit card, and any other loan for that matter, is dependent on your credit score. Now, your credit score is just a measurement that the financial industry uses to assess how much of a risk you are to loan money to. These credit scores are developed and kept by a series of very large institutions called credit rating agencies. In North America, these are Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, but there's many more around the world, and it's worth checking out which one applies in your jurisdiction. What these agencies do is they aggregate data from across your credit history. That includes your credit cards, anytime you've interacted with a finance company, buy now, pay later, such as Affirm, your cell phone provider, or any other service that you get, and then you pay for it later at the end of the month. What they're specifically looking for is how often are you opening these new accounts, and are you making your payments on time, in full, or at all. They go from a low of 300 to a high of 850, with those higher scores being subject to better loan conditions, higher amounts, lower interest rates, and from better and more respected financial institutions. Now, this score is incredibly important. It follows you around for your entire life, and it determines when you need a loan, whether you get it at 4% interest or 10% interest, and that matters a lot when the amounts get bigger and bigger and you take a longer time to actually pay those loans off. Luckily, there are a bunch of things that you can do to raise your credit score, or at least keep it the same. These include just making your payments on time, as we said earlier. It also means not using more than 35% of your available credit, and that does mean, even for example, if you need just $350 of credit every month, it's much better for your credit score to have a $1,000 credit limit as opposed to, for example, a $400 or $500 limit. This shows the bank that even though you have the option, you're not going to max out your credit limit spending more than you need and more than you can afford. This tells them that you're prudent, you're strategic, you make good financial decisions, and crucially, you know how to live within your means. Also, not using your credit card very often, and then when you do, trying to pay it off in 1 to 2 installments when you get your paycheck 2 times per month. Additionally, this shows the banks and the credit rating agencies that you are not desperate for credit. Desperate people very often are less likely to pay off their loans on time, and that once again makes them a larger risk to financial institutions. It should be noted further that every time you set up a payment plan to pay for something in a bunch of installments over a longer period of time, that the company will run what is called a hard credit check. This means they open up a portal to Experian or Equifax, and they take a look at your credit file with the intention of giving you a new monthly payment. Unfortunately, this will lower your credit score by as many as 10 points, because as far as the rating agency is concerned, every time you add a new payment to your credit program, this means that your paycheck is getting stretched farther and farther, and you are more likely to not pay your previous payments, and that makes you a higher credit risk in the future. Luckily, again, you can get these points back by continuing to successfully make all of your payments every single month. One way to determine if you're in a credit position to set up one of these monthly plans is to run what is called a soft credit check on yourself. This means you go through the exact same procedure, but it's you who's going onto the credit agency's website, and you put in your own information and you get to look at your own credit score. This does not lower your credit score at all, because it's you, once again, being prudent and knowing your own financial position. Regardless, it's also a good idea to run one of these soft checks about every 6 months or so, just so you can make sure that all your information is up to date when somebody else pulls up your credit file, and you can check for fraud so you can start an investigation, and if anyone's made any purchases that you didn't authorize, you can start to get some of those credit points back for yourself. I mentioned earlier that it's a really good idea to always try and use 35% or less of your available credit. I know this is a little bit challenging. Luckily, there are some strategies to make this process easier. The first and most important one is don't buy consumable things like food or pharmaceuticals using your credit card. If you pay for them in cash when you can afford them, it actually prevents you from ever extending yourself beyond what you can naturally afford, and things like consumable electronics, such as cell phones or laptops, it's much better to save up for and pay for it in a single debit purchase. Once again, this prevents you from living beyond your means, and the other result is that you don't pay interest on your purchase, which actually lowers the cost over time considerably. It is a good idea to buy things that you know are going to increase in value over time. Unfortunately, in the context of a credit card, there's not that many areas where this applies. Another relatively simple way to lower your overhead costs is whenever you go to buy something, compare it against the lifestyle that you actually lead. For instance, if you only have, say, a family of 4, does it really make sense to live and pay for a 10-bedroom house? Or if all you do is run your kids to the grocery store or to school, or just running errands in the city, does it really make sense to have a big 4x4 or pickup truck? Would a sedan suffice instead? Even further, if you live in a city with decent transit, do you need to be driving your car all the time? Gas is very expensive, or do you need a car at all? In many instances, limiting your expenses can be easier and simpler than trying to go and make more money, but either way, it definitely happens over a faster time horizon. If you made it this far into the video, you're as passionate about having good financial health as I am, definitely click the subscribe button below, and again to let me know that this kind of content is really valuable for you. Finally, I know it probably sounds like I think credit cards are terrible and I'm saying that neither you or anyone else should ever have one. That's not actually the case whatsoever. Credit cards do have a place in the financial system, and they're very, very important for tiding us over during emergencies or getting us through that 2-week period between paychecks. But that's just it. They're emergency bridges. They are not replacement for cash or our debit account, as we are very often told they are. It's simply not true. If you follow the advice in this video, there's a very good chance you'll be able to join the tiny fraction of people here in North America that are able to live with super high credit scores while also being able to live free of credit card debt. Everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.